Oh, hello, my wonderful, beautiful brothers of the wonderful, beautiful Maverick Nation. I'm all my wonderful, beautiful bros guys of the wonderful, beautiful Maverick Nation. I am the Dark Shadow Maverick. Uh, and welcome to part freaking 4 of What If Izuku Was the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Basically, part 3. Basically, we figured about everything that happened with Izuku. Basically, whenever I said that his body was completely covered in burns, basically, Toya's situation where he has his burn marks, like where certain parts of his body are burns, like that color, but like all of his skin is that color. Wait, 1 second here. I was supposed to use 2 different sound like track things for the third part, but I only used one because I'm an idiot and I forgot the other one. So, the water though. And time resumes. Anyways, basically, at this point in the whole segment, basically, I'm gonna basically give a good rundown of what Izuku looks like, just so that everybody can get a complete picture. Basically, you guys know, like, the skin, like, yeah, burn marks with that color, like, on Toya's skin. It's basically that color. The purplish color. And basically has, Shigaraki's hair color from, the anime, and Shigaraki's eye color from the anime. But he's wearing Guzma's drip from Pokemon Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. So basically, yeah. Basically, picture that being like the entire skin and, the hair color and eye color of Shigaraki, or as we call him now in his story, Tenko. And basically wearing Guzma's drip from Pokemon Sun, Moon, Ultra Sun, and Ultra Moon. Ah, yes. Basically, what's happening now? Basically, this is the day of the USJ attack. Only, it's not just going to be like Shigaraki and Hirogiri. No, Hirogiri is going to be there, but along with Izuku, because he's basically become the ruler of this ship, he's also amassed followers that the League of Villains weren't originally able to amass. Or at least if they did, they didn't really amass them all that well. He would have, along with him, besides just Kirogiri, he would also have Stain and Overhaul. And plus there would be the high-end Nomu, but there would also be like 2 regular Nomu that we're going with. Like, almost like side Nomus. Like, basically 2 regular Nomus of like the bird kind that, off one makes. Basically the ones that attack Hosu and Ganon. Basically those, 2 of those, and the high-end Nomu. Like, just like in the middle of it. And like the other people besides the two Nomus and the high-end Nomu. You know, like I said, Izuku, Kirogiri, Stain, and Kaijisaki, also known as Overhaul. And basically, as far as the fodder villains go, well, none of the Vanguard Atom Squad really sent out. Basically, just all the Yakuza guys. Like, average to, like, adept and skill level guys. Because, you know, they're only wanting to test the waters whenever it comes to the lackeys. You know, like Stain, Overhaul, and Kirigiri, they're like the admins of the group. And the no moves are kind of like the little, like, test projects. Kind of like that little, volcanoes that are made in science class. They're not real volcanoes, they're like tests. Just because you could, doesn't mean you should. Basically, what just happens with that is, whenever everybody gets to the USJ, everything that happens in canon pretty much happens. Like, with the whole, closing of the doors behind them, lights turning off, all of that, but, like I said, the people have changed quite a lot. However, none more wrath than that of the wrath and pretty much confusion overall that comes whenever you realize your younger brother is now a villain. Technically, they're pretty much viewed as villains, but they're not really villains. They're more or less anti-heroes. Because they do it their own way, and basically that's perceived as villainy. So it's more or less that they're being perceived as villains. They're not really actually villains. They're more or less being perceived as villains. So, yeah, basically, and realizing the shape that he's in, like, his entire, pretty much all of his skin is burn marks. And, like, he's got a weird drip. And another thing I will say is that, Izuku's kind of let his hair grow out a little. Because, you know, he just doesn't care. He's like, screw the rule books. I quit smoking. I got it smoking. You know, Izuku wouldn't need, like his interactions with Kirogiri and Toya, he would indeed have a little bit of a different, way of talking. You'd just be like, yo, Overhaul, Stain, could you, be dolls that you are and, kick the crap out of the hero kids? You know, kick the crap about the wannabe hero kids? Like, wannabe hero kids next door? You would basically call them that, wannabe hero kids next door. Yeah, he's got that, Team Skull vibe, like, whenever he talks. And, yeah. However, don't kill them, just make them wish they were dead. Which means, no overusage of your quirk, Overhaul. And that goes for your quirk too, Stain. hold back as much as you need to in order to not kill any of them. Leave, especially Bakugo and you know who for me to deal with. Oh, and anything about Alma coming here? Oh, that's what my little flying friends are here for. Now, you see these two regular Nomu, Normie Nomus. These Normie Nomus here. You literally just calling them Normie Nomus. You know. Normie Nomu Jerry, Normie Nomu Scott. You know freaking names. Be like, these guys, basically, if I can get past them, then it will basically have proven that he deserves to get the glory of a high-end Nomu. Not like any of you chumps be able to actually take down the high-end Nomu before All Might gets here. No, it's the entire reason it's called high-end. It's high in power, and it's gonna end your life. I love this. I love being me. This new me I like. Now, let's get the ball rolling. Yakuza guys, get yourselves out here. I mean, at least you should be average to adept level, so yeah, I mean, come on. I don't exactly think average to adept level Yakuza guys would be sitting over here like chicken shit cowards, playing with your little snickerdoodle, 10-foot tall or not. You should be spending more time doing what I say and less time playing with your 10-foot long snickerdoodles. The fact that he's actually calling that snickerdoodles. And the guys are just like, oh, yes, sir. Like, yes, sir. You know, everything would just be freaking bloody chaos. And basically, who would Sting go after and who would Overhaul go after? Well, basically, Stain would be going up against the people that were like basically in easy to access areas because you know he's gotta cut you and lick your like do whatever with your blood before he can actually have the quirk take effect on you. So they would basically be advised to go in areas that would at most, you know, be responsive to their quirks. So, you know, basically, don't be stupid and try to go in an area where your quirk would be useless. That's kind of something Izuku, you know, wasn't exactly slacking on drilling into everyone's heads. Like, just don't be a dumbass. The Overhaul would basically be going for the same thing. He would stick to an area where his quirk would be most useful. And they would especially want this because if they do this, then it will be a lot easier for them to control their quirks enough so that they don't, you know, really kill anybody, just make them wish they were dead. The only one they really have to kill, you know, is like you know, Bakugo, and basically put, put Tenko through a hell of a lot of survivor's guilt, just through what they're about to do to Bakugo. And, whenever it comes to All Might, basically it would be oh so special. Basically, whenever All Might finally does come crashing down, basically one Nomu in each hand, basically be like, double Detroit Delaware smash, bam! Basically like two, like one in each hand, like boosh, and their like entire brains, like their entire craniums, crash against the floor, and the air pressure going through All Might's fists as they his hands kind of cuff around their heads as they turn and ball up into fists. And so basically, like, their entire heads would just splatter everywhere. And, Hirogiri would just be like, well, that's the first ever successful attempt at anything they've done so far. Yeah, like, in canon, the heroes are basically getting obliterated right now. Izuku thought, like, his entire strategy out really damn hard, thinking of, like, any possible holes that could be in his plan that he would need to fix. And so basically, All Might, having basically decimated the two regular no moves, just sees the high-end no move, and he's just like, for the love of God, really? Crap. And so basically, what happens in Canon happens, basically All Might punches the ever-living shit out of the freaking high-end Nomu. And, basically, he actually speeds up the process in which he's fighting these Nomus, because he knows he doesn't have that much time. So, yeah. Because, he wants to get to a certain person responsible for all of this. And that certain person is basically being like, come on, you want the person responsible? Dude, I'm right friggin' here. I mean, come on. What's wrong with a little battle? And a little bit, a lot more war. It's talking warfare, baby. Dropping bombs. So you best go hide in your tube. And, All Might would just be like, at this point, All Might literally believes that there is no saving Izuku. And it's really like, do you literally believe Izuku wants to be saved? Or that he feels like he has to be saved? Because, like, in Izuku's mind, this is the best thing that ever could have happened to him, is being put in the position that he is now. This position of power to where he literally, he doesn't even have to bother moving the pieces. Whenever he can completely, basically, just moves the board. He doesn't just move the pieces, he moves the entire board around. This shit. Basically how much he's dominating. And, been dominating. Without even having to lift a finger. And Kirigiri does admit that is impressive. And he's just, just has this presence that allows him to get away with so much. And, Izuku would just be like, Gary, my friend. My sweetheart, my schnookums, my cherry blossom on top of the sundae. Forget that last part. You don't even know the half of it, friend. You don't even know the half of it. Now, let's see if we can have some fun with this. Before, my quirk was simply just a dragon. Just like my momsies. My dear old momsies. Oh, where out there, momsies? Where art thou, momsies? Dear old momsies. Ryuko. Number 10 hero, dragon hero. How pathetic. You know, he's saying all this while dodging every single attack Almight's trying to hit him with. He is literally talking smack about other people while dodging All Might's attacks. Kirigiri's just like watching, almost like he literally, like, if this was any more like pathetic on the part of All Might, Kirigiri would probably just like ask for like salt or butter for the popcorn, you know, just to be snarky. But you know, something tells Kirigiri Izuku would not give a shit less, whether he did it or not. He is having way too much fun right now to give a shit at all. You know, with everything my momsy's done, and everything that she didn't do, I'm looking at you, snazzy hair, as he just, you know, has his eyes set on Bakugo as he says snazzy hair. And, my bro life, my bro death, and my bro subconsciously reacting to all that is and all that was and ever will be in the future. Past, present, future doesn't even matter. You know why? Because you're all base bitches in my game. My little game I like to call Blue Eyes White Shining Dragon. And, you know, I might just like, wait, Blue Eyes White Shining Dragon? And Izuku's like, my quirk has indeed done something beautiful. Tell him, Kirigiri. Tell him like it's hot. Hotter than hot topic, my bro, man. Hotter than hot topic. And Kirigiri's like, oh, indeed. Yes, I will. You see, there is the Blue Eyes White Dragon, but a Blue Eyes White Dragon is nothing compared to Blue Eyes Shining White Dragon. The power this holds is pretty much GG no re for all of you. End of statement. And Izuku would just be like, end of statement. Nothing left to be said, but all the more left for me to crush you guys like the insolent little bugs you are. And, you know, at this point, Tenko would just be like, oh yeah? Prove it. And, you know, All Might would indeed try to stop this, like, this altercation, but he would realize not only is it kind of inevitable, but he just automatically, as this happens, he poofs out of his buff form. And he just pretty much ends up, like, crippled up in a little pile. And he realizes he's extended his time too long, and that several of his vital organs are failing him. As he finally realizes something, a white light eclipsing all of his vision. But usually whenever people die, they're like a lot of darkness, not light. Maybe light at the end of the tunnel, but there doesn't seem to be a tunnel in sight for Toshi Noriyagi, the one, the only symbol of peace, All Might. He realizes now, the blue eyes white shining dragon has awoken. And with its first move, it enters attack mode, aiming straight for the symbol of peace himself. Tenko basically trying to react, but kind of getting ensnared within the blue eyes white shining dragon's tail. Basically kind of getting the life sucked out of him, like squeezed out of him, as he's just forced to watch All Might get basically non-existent. You know, he like kills him twice over. Not just twice over, but like 3 times over. And people are wondering, like, well, like, if twice is like non-existing anymore, then what's 3 times over? Because that, what that looks like is like 3 times over of All Might dying. Yeah, because Izuku ain't bothering with holding back. Only, you know, bothering with holding back with his brother, you know, making sure that he doesn't completely lose all of his breath. Just because he wanted to see, you know, the look on his face whenever he saw, basically, what was once both their idols, you know, pretty much die right in front of him. And he no longer really idolizes All Might. In fact, he finds him a pretty annoying roadblock in his plans, and was even able to convince Stain that this was true. You know, kind of tweak Stain's own ideologies. Like, get in there, get into his noggin, and tweak his own ideologies without him even knowing it. So this is why Stain doesn't have anything against him doing this, because, well, he's basically made it to where Stain doesn't feel the same way that he felt about All Might before. He's basically, indeed, moved the board, and in doing so, caused the rook to topple the king. In other words, in a battle of rook versus king, the rook approaches the king. In a battle of wits, All Might just wasn't good enough, and then the power gap became pretty much evident. Though a rook may look small compared to a king at first, if anyone's a good enough player, they can basically turn a rook into a king's worst nightmare. And many are soon to know this all across Japan, no, all across the world, possibly even. That the rook can topple any king. All it has to do is be played right, to where it can play others without them even knowing. Decisive victory after decisive victory, only growing stronger the more kingdoms it topples, with little to no casualties in its own wake, constantly taking over kingdom after kingdom, usurping them all into its own army, becoming an impenetrable wall of an ununderstandable material, only seem to be known as raw potential, truly only guided by one thing: This one thing being literally like pulling an Undertale. Izuku does it because he knows he can do it. The only reason Izuku hasn't really found anything else. He just knows he can make this difference, and he can make it in this way. And as he finds out about this difference, more and more kingdoms will topple. Kingdom of Stain's ideologies, a kingdom of Overhaul's influence after the death of the old man, the Yakuza, and even toppling the kingdom of the highest of pedestals, the symbol of peace, no longer. Toppling kingdom after kingdom, usurping king after king. And only now has he resorted to a killing blow. The other times, he just took what they had and went with it. Just added more and more to the table so that you get ever closer to that point where it would be like taking candy from a baby. Literally. One swift and decisive decision, and everything else just fell into peace. As Izuku would make his statement out to the world for all to hear that any rook, no matter how powerless it seems to a king, can topple down any king with the right reason to do so. His reason? Because he can. And because he can, he will. That's all the reason he feels he needs. If he can do something, if he can topple them, he will topple them. If he can usurp them and take everything that they're worth, he will do so. If he can make a literal living mockery out of them, he will do so. And without an ounce of regrets. And it is at this very moment in which Tenko just basically like that scene in Final Fantasy VIII whenever it's that guy, I forget his name, basically like it's that scene where basically like a mind break and then you get that creepy ass image with a hole through the face. It's basically Tenko's mind just breaks. And as soon as this happens, as soon as he's done it, as soon as Izuku's conquered his brother completely, he exclaims, and yet another check and mate. Kirogiri just knowing what's about to happen next, and being like, oh, really, I probably should prepare myself before we do another one of these. Because he knows that, regardless of what happens next, they are not going to defeat them. They stand no chance. No matter how many heroes show up, if Izuku knows that he can take someone down, he will take them down, regardless of any roadblock that stands in his way. And if he feels like doing something that he knows he can do, he'll do it, regardless of whatever's standing in his way. We'll just take those things down too. Down with the ship they'll go. And that's whenever all of a sudden you can just hear it. After how much training Tenko's been doing, worried to hell about his brother's well-being, after everything that he's been putting himself through, he would have finally gotten all the way up to one for all, full duality, 50%, Detroit Smash! Yes, 50%. A 50% smash. Straight towards good old Izuku. And Izuku only really doing one thing. For one last decisive victory, he feels like, he's earned. For one last decisive victory, just to show all of the heroes and the wannabe heroes how minuscule they all are. He says this one thing before he ends it all. He says this one thing. After this, brother, you will know nihilism, as I have known for so long. It has hurt so. It is until I embrace. So, will you choose to regress, or will you embrace? Either way, I assure you, brother, by the end of this, forevermore, whether you survive this or not, forevermore, you will know nihilism. And that is whenever another fully charged blast in the Blue Eyes White Shining Dragon form. Basically, this one will basically be sent to Tenko, though. And those words, he would know nihilism. They would ring in Tenko's ears right as the smash, the 50% smash, would reach the beam and everything. Well, basically, the world itself would collapse in on itself. As the ashes, once everything cleared up, there would be a pretty messed up Tenko, but would still be standing. In fact, he'd be like, "Is that all you got, brother?" Because if it is, you truly are a sad, sad, sad fool to have taken this path. If this is all you've got. That's whenever Izuku would just chuckle to himself, be like, basically, Izuku would just, it would literally, I'm actually gonna see if I can pull something out. See if you guys can hear this. Because that's pretty much what this is. If you guys can hear it, what has just happened. Ah, shit, no ads. Izuku just does this. And only this. Have you guys heard that? If you guys didn't hear it, that was Kira's laugh from Death Note. And right as the laugh would finish, you just stare at him dead in the eyes, only his eyes would basically, they'd be red. Blood red. And he would actually still be doing the laugh. Finally stopping. Only to exclaim, "You see, brother, I am the rook who takes all. I am the one. And there can only be one, brother." Do you know what that means, brother? It means you must die. Besides, can't help but just think how all that attack you did there, all it did was tickle. And you did realize me laugh. It was that ticklish. I didn't know I could be so ticklish while having so much fun. But now, seems the games are over. Now, we play for keeps. And this would happen. Tenko literally not believing his own eyes, as he was basically just getting the ever-living shit kicked out of him by his own brother. Just like happy slapping him around like this was some sort of game to him. Izuku basically looking at his brother dead in the eyes, telling him, "This, dear brother, this is check and mate." As he would basically have a single rook in his hand. Technically, he'd have two rooks. A black rook and a white rook. He would throw the two out straight towards Izuku. Not Izuku. Straight towards Tenko. And unlike what you'd think only small explosives were able to do, this would literally create an explosion that would shoot Tenko outside of the USJ building and straight through the school bus. All the way out to the other side. And onto the concrete. So hard that it made a crater. Tenko even surprised he's still alive. much power. Tenko finally realized something. He realized fear. That's where basically Tenko would black out. As the words about he would know nihilism would constantly ring in his ear. However, he would wake up, not anywhere in the physical world, but what seemed to be his mindscape, as he would see his brother simply taunting him, and, well, basically continuing to manhandle him. Even in his dreams, he was still getting his ass kicked. He was truly coming to terms with the fact that the other side basically he was coming to terms with his weakness, his inability to save the day like a true hero would. This is what Izuku had felt for so long. Tenko just felt limp in the void of nothingness. And that's whenever a simple snap of flip of the wrist and simply as the sound would ring out, Izuku would be brought back to consciousness. Tenko would be brought back to consciousness. He would be in the office of Recovery Girl, and he would actually be told that pretty much all the time that students of UA would have had to prepare for the UA Sports Festival, he was in a coma. Yeah, Tenko had literally been in a coma for 2 weeks. The entire time that he would have had to freaking prepare, he literally would have been out. Completely out. And Izuku, Tenko would have come to grips with crushing pain, nihilism that was being thrusted into his heart like a dagger of truth. As basically, Tenko would go home only to see that pretty much before he could even get to his home, halfway there, he would pass out again. This time, it would just be a cold darkness where he wouldn't even be able to hear his own voice. More and more each time he would wake up from these things, these oddities that were scattering out through his mind, he would feel more of the presence of nihilism in his life as he would begin to basically pretty much tell himself what he already knew. At least what he believed he already knew. Izuku was right. After After all of that, he would indeed know nihilism. And Alan Z Anados only one of the big buskies and bus guys. Because, I freaking drive a dagger through people's hearts with sometimes how dark I can get. But hey, sometimes that just be how it be. Besides, I have other what if ideas brewing through my head. In fact, this other one actually doesn't even involve a what if that I've already finished. You know, colliding with the MHA universe. Anybody remember the antibodies? If you do, you should know there ain't gonna be any holding back. But if you do know them, you should have already been able to tell. Bye.